What is going on, Goldlewis Nation? Our Lord and Savior Gobou just dropped the matchup tier list. Is it based? Is it cringe? Can I trust what Gobou has to say? Well, first thing we have to say about Gobou is that he's not human. And so this is not replicable by any of you or me or any other Goldlewis player in the world. This is what the Lord Gobou has to say about the current state of Goldlewis in Guilty Gear Strive. Now, I know a lot of you don't read Japanese. Of course, I do. And so I can tell you, this says advantaged. This says slight advantaged. This says even. This says slight disadvantage. And this says impossible. So first thing we want to say is that this matchup chart is absolutely cap. Okay. And I see people in chat already saying that it is, this is a demon list. This is the craziest upplay I've ever seen in my life. But I'm very glad that Gobou pointed out one thing that I believe to be absolutely true. And that is Chip being an impossible matchup for Goldlewis. Oh my God, this character should never lose to Goldlewis. This Chip should actually never lose to Goldlewis. For real, for real, for real. It is so impossible if the Chip really, really knows what they're doing to counter Goldlewis. Second of all, Giovanna, that's a lot worse. I didn't realize that they had that low of an opinion on the Giovanna matchup. Personally, I don't think it's as bad. I mean, like, I would never dream of a world where saying Goldlewis does worse against Giovanna than Happy Chaos. I actually could not believe that. But let's move on to our next stage. This is the, probably because it's TY. Yeah, I'm probably thinking the same thing, to be honest. Next up, we have slight disadvantage. And this is, you know, maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe it's not slight. Maybe it's like heavy disadvantage. And there is no slight disadvantage in, you know what? I'm going to read this as this is heavy disadvantage. And this is slight disadvantage. And then this is even. And this is slight advantage. Because that, in my head, that makes way more sense to me. Coming from a gold, you know, no, I take it back. We're not going to recontextualize the tier list. We're going to see it as Gobou intended for us to see it. So Nago obviously does incredibly, incredibly well against Goldlewis. They have so many ways to exploit Goldlewis and just play at a range where Goldlewis can literally never challenge them. They can just play at max 2H range with high blood, force Goldlewis in the corner, win a round start, guaranteed. They can use DP round start, guaranteed, and lock you down into the corner. It beats every single option, including round start backdash from Goldlewis. Really, really gross, okay? It's very, very gross. It's definitely more than slight disadvantage in my mind. It's probably close to like 6.5, 3.5, maybe 7.3, but probably not. Next up, we have Testament. I'm not even going to comment on Testament. I haven't played enough Testaments. I'll take Gobou's word on it. It seems bad if it's on the same level as Nago and Faust. Then Testament clearly does very, very well. Next, we have Happy Chaos. I actually can't believe this. It's crazy to me that you would put Happy Chaos so high. And I say so high, but I mean, still bottom 4 worst matchups. It's like, maybe I'm just bad, you know? Maybe just me and every other Goldlewis in the world is bad at the Happy Chaos matchup, but it doesn't feel good. This matchup, I don't even feel like I'm playing a fighting game when I play this matchup. It's a little mini game, you know. It's like I opened up Super Mario Bros. And I'm jumping around, hopping around. Bowser is keeping me out, and you know, there's no shot. I just don't believe it. I really don't believe it. I mean, I'm exaggerating here. I can't even come up with a good example in my head for how bad the matchup is for Goldlewis. But you know what? We'll just move on. Obviously, everyone knows how I feel about that matchup. Next, we have Faust. Faust does do very well against Goldlewis, particularly because he can just constantly throw out items, and many, many, many of these items are going to stop Goldlewis from ever being able to approach. Even when you get the actual hit on Faust from like peak 684, even when you get that, it's not enough because they can get like half their items will randomly stop you from ever taking a turn. So you get to see them throw infinite items, and honestly, that's like enough. They also have like some really great buttons to stop Goldlewis, including an amazing 6P that stops a ton of Goldlewis's options in neutral, including JD and Far Slash and all of his aerial approaches, really. Next up in even, we have Soul. This is the first thing I've seen in the chart that looks actually correct. In my mind, Soul probably does like evenish against Goldlewis. Goldlewis does well in the neutral with a JD going over a lot of Soul's pokes, and Soul doesn't have a great 6P. So he can't really exploit that in that way. Soul, however, does have run up 5K, which recently I've come into, and it's kind of tough, I'll be honest. That option goes under the JD and then beats it, and then, you know, beats a ton of things because it's 3-frame 5K. But yeah, you know what? I'll take it. Soul being even, perfectly fine. Leo being even is a problem. This is a real problem. Leo, maybe there just aren't great Leos over there, but Leo destroys Goldlewis. It is so unbelievably rough. It's on the tier of like Nago, because down up DP that also covers both sides, even when you trick the DP and has such a big range, it just completely denies all of Goldlewis's frame traps, all of them. And including like 2K 2D, you can't even do 2K 2D against Leo because it's so slow. They can like see the entire 2K and then like DP in that gap. But yeah, you can't do like behemoth into behemoth, even in the corner, even when things are spaced out. Like you think you're fine, but you're not. You have to actually pause your game plan entirely to play around that DP. And obviously, if you pause against the Leo, you're not going to do that great. You really aren't. Also, not only does Leo do well against Goldlewis pressure, his pressure is insanely good against Goldlewis. Goldlewis can't really deal with like JS into JS, and he has really stubby buttons that don't really hit Leo well. Next up, we'll talk about Jacko. It's not really a matchup that I've played a ton of. I usually do like fine against it. In my mind, it's probably like evenish. Maybe, I mean, I can't even give a maybe actually. I'll just say evenish. So, you know, fairly, I mean, once again, I can't really provide input on this. I'll just say even, sure. In my mind, it's probably the same way. We'll move on. Next up, in slight advantage, Gobou is Axel. I will say recently, I've been doing incredibly well against Axels. Maybe I would buy that Axel is an even matchup. I just don't see a world where it's advantage for Goldlewis, though. I really don't. The neutral's rough. Obviously, everyone knows that the neutral is rough. But more importantly, Axel has really great options to deal with Goldlewis pressure, even when he's in the corner. 5P will beat a ton of the behemoth into behemoth options. It'll also stop all like JD staggers. Like when you do like your plus 12 and then you like go for JD to like call to jump as well as like try to do something. The 5P will stop you. It's kind of rough. You know, it is kind of rough. And Axel low profile 2K. I mean, it's a menacing in every matchup, but against Goldlewis, very good button there as well. Next, we have Ramethal. I mean, I'm getting triggered again. Putting Ramethal on advantage hurts my brain. Ramethal really does well against Goldlewis. Once Goldlewis is in the corner, he does not have good options to ever get out. The stagger is just incredible. Ramethal's pressure is already better than Goldlewis's pressure. Against Goldlewis particularly, it's like 20% better. It's rough. It's really rough. I won't say anything else about it. The neutral is exactly what we'd think, getting zoned out by big buttons. Corner, you lose. If you have Ramethal in the corner, if they have meter, they can still threaten super at any time, which is massive range, stop you from a lot of things. If they don't have meter, obviously they're in a little more of a rough position, but even to get there, I mean, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Next up, we have Kai in advantage. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I personally struggle with Kai. Dealing with a character that has big and fast buttons, really good neutral, insane 6P, probably the best in the game. Actually, now that testament to the game, probably not, but I get rolled in this matchup. I'm not gonna lie, I really do. The DP is really rough to deal with. The neutral is really rough. The 6P is really rough. I'm willing to say though that maybe I'm wrong about it. I think at best though, it's probably an even matchup. I mean, I could not see a world where Goldlewis is favored against a character with a DP, because once again, DPs are incredibly strong against Goldlewis. They deny his win condition anywhere on the screen. Next up, we have Bikini and slight advantage for Goldlewis. I could maybe see this because Goldlewis does have JD, which is a really good option to play around parry. But in my mind, it's probably closer to even, because there's good counterplay on both sides. There's very good counterplay on both sides. Obviously, Goldlewis is going to do more damage, but Bikini has JS, and JS is the most degenerate button in the game. She pretty much wins neutral for free, especially against Goldlewis, who cannot 6P her on reaction unless it's legitimately full screen. Next up, we have Eno in slight advantage. I could believe that this is advantage for Gobou. It's definitely not advantage for me. Eno dominates in the neutral on the back of Heavy Chemical Love, HCl, which obviously catches Goldlewis standing. Very rough for him. Also has Stroke, which is a low that you have to worry about on top of that. Also has Note. That is incredibly difficult for Goldlewis to play around. But I've seen Gobou play against Diaphone, and I've seen Goldlewis play against Daro, and he does it. He makes it happen. So, you know what? If Gobou says this is advantage for Goldlewis, I believe it. At least for him. In my mind, though, it's actually advantage for Eno because the neutral is so good, and I don't know the optimal ways to like fuzzy against Eno, and I kind of get rolled for it. Maybe if I learned it, I would change my mind, but I mean, I think I already played the matchup like fine enough, and I don't seem to be winning over a long period of time in the matchup. Next up, we have Angie. I mean, I could believe this slight advantage for Goldlewis over Angie. I think Ko is super strong for Angie, keeps Goldlewis out of the air, keeps him honest. Butterfly into Ko pretty much does the same thing. Angie pressure, not so good against Goldlewis because of the 5Ps. And for that reason alone, I would say that it's probably Angie favored. I just dropped something. I had to pick it back up. Or sorry, I didn't mean Angie favored. I could believe that it is slight Goldlewis favored. I could buy that. I could buy that. Next up, we have May. In my mind, more of an evenish matchup, but you know what? I won't deny that we do have some privilege in the May matchup, that being 6-8-4 after S Dolphin to catch like every follow-up. So it really does dilute the mind games that May has in the matchup. That being said, camping Mays in that matchup are very, very good. Just zoning Goldlewis out with big disjoints. It's rough for Goldlewis, especially given his big hurt box, but I'll buy it. I'll buy that. Next up, we have Zato in advantage. I have to see Gobou play the matchup. I have to see Gobou play the matchup. I really can't believe this. Goldlewis doesn't have a fast enough button to break the skizzers. What are those things called, bro? The little scythes on the ground. You have to have like a 7-framer. You have to have like a 7-frame low, and Goldlewis has an 8-frame 2K, and his 2P whiffs. It's really rough. Goldlewis kind of eats the brunt of the mix-ups on Goldlewis. Gets kept out a lot. Once again, I have to see Gobou play it, because I have no idea what you're talking about. No, not drills. All right, the two advantaged matchups. We have Potemkin and Millia. I can buy Potemkin. In my mind, it's a little closer to even if both players know all the counterplay, because Potemkin can do a lot in the matchup. Far Slash will pretty much cover everything Goldlewis does in neutral. It'll stop JD. Okay, Pierce. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Well-timed Far Slash will beat a JD. It'll beat a Far Slash because outranges it. It'll beat it'll beat a 6-8-4. It's got incredible range, and Goldlewis doesn't really have a way to punish it unless you're right outside of the range, and then you like dash 2-6-2-4. Goldlewis also obviously having a really, really bad 6P, so you can't really 6P that on reaction because it's so slow. In the corner, Potemkin can use Slide Head to stop you from doing Behemoth Staggers. You have to do pressure in a very particular way to play around Slide Head in your gaps. And, once again, I see that in like evenish. Clearly, Gobou thinks that the matchup is so good that, it deserved its own tier with Millia. So that's kind of crazy to me. Once again, I got to see why it's so advantage for him when he plays the matchup. Next up, we have Millia. I have to see him play again. When I play against Millias, it seems like the neutral is very, very unfavored. The same way that it would be against Chip. Obviously, Millia does not have that chip pressure that's so effective against Goldlewis. But Goldlewis does have a big health pool to guess with Millia. I could see that. In my mind, it's much closer to even. I mean, in my mind, it might even be slight disadvantage for Goldlewis. But the way that he has this list, you would never put Millia here in slight disadvantage, right? Because it's nowhere near that. I don't know. The whole thing is on its head. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my rating update page, and I'm going to check my win rates and see how it fares compared to what Gobou has here. And maybe all of my opinions are worthless, and maybe my win rate follows this exactly. So that'd be funny. So we're gonna go check that out. Here are my win rates. Actually, can I get a split on this? Here are my win rates. And here is the tier list. Open image, a new tab. There we go. All right, up at the top, my best win rate, 94% against Potemkins. Number one matchup. I will say that I think my thing is inflated because the Potemkins I play against just clearly don't know the matchup. Like, they're not even slide heading in the corner. So, I mean, I think my win rate is heavily inflated. Next up, we have Bikini, 85% against Bikini. Does not have that in the heavy advantage, but you know what? It pretty much matches. It probably should be up there, but I mean, we see that. Actually, it's 60% when adjusted. Should we look at adjusted or raw? I'm gonna look at adjusted. All right, so 81% of Potemkin. That means great advantage. So I mean, yep, you know, that lines up. Bikini 60%, that lines up and winning. Millia 59%, so it's a little closer down, but you know, still advantage. So they have the right idea. Testament 58%. I will say I just like I've not played against like the really good Testaments, you know, so too early to call for sure. Goldlewis 56%. Okay, fair. Soul 54%, close to even. He's got that right. Angie 54%, in the realm of correctness. Leo 53. Oh no, am I about to prove? Am I about to prove Gobou's based? Once again, I don't think Leo's online know the matchup as well as it could be. Like theoretically, maybe this is how his matchup looks like in Celestial. Theoretically though, like I'm telling you, like the great Leos will destroy you playing regularly with Goldlewis. You have to change your entire game plan. May 53%. Also in the realm of what we're talking about here. Kai, 51%, also in the realm of what we're talking about here. Naga with the 49%. Okay, slight disadvantage. You know, I might be onto something over here. Giovanna, 48%. Clearly, I'm overperforming the matchup with losing. I'm winning the impossible matchup. We take those. Jacko, even. Correct. Zato, losing over like barely, but in the realm of even, so I mean, kind of nice. Ramathal 40. Okay, this is the one where we've definitely seen that the Ramathal is in the wrong spot, bro. The Ramathal is in the wrong spot. All right, Faust 43%. Yep, that's Faust for you. Although I think I'm doing much better in this matchup. I used to be bad at the matchup. Now I'm like good at it for real. But yeah, Faust 43. That makes sense over there. Chip 42. Impossible matchup down here. Axel 39. I will say I've gotten much better at this matchup recently. Like I definitely have like crazy win percentage right now against Axels. I've won like my last, 30 games against Axels pretty convincingly. But let's see, Eno 34%. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. The Enos, dude. The Enos are rough for me, man. The Enos are rough for me. Happy Chaos. I mean, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say about that? And yeah, that's going to conclude this video. Maybe Gobou's onto something, man, with what he's saying here. I mean, if this was a Celestial tier list, I could see that. But if you're talking about the best of the best players, I don't think the matchup spread looks anything like that. And I'll stick to my guns in that take.